is officially. Because unofficially, the state police takes turns to visit these communities. They shake hands, exchange information, and are evidently content that in the end, crime is not such a problem in this part of Guerrero. It's a cause for celebration, they say, because these highland communities may be poor, but they feel safe. People have taken matters into their own hands here, and they say it has paid off. Mariana Sanchez, AlJazeera, Jolochitan, Mexico.
This is Al Jazeera, and these are the stories making the headlines now. Human Rights Watch says 104 people have been killed in a crackdown on anti-government protesters in Libya. The worst violence appears to be in the eastern city of Benghazi. Muslim leaders are appealing to security forces to stop killing civilians. Protesters, meanwhile, in Bahrain have taken to the streets of their capital for another day of anti-government rallies. The government has offered talks, but opposition groups still calling for a nationwide strike. At least 6 people were killed when security forces opened fire on demonstrators on Thursday. Afghan medical officials say at least 40 people are now known to have died in Saturday's suicide bombing, making it one of the worst attacks in months. The Taliban says one of its bombers blew himself up at Kabul Bank in Jalalabad. 73 more people were wounded. The bomber targeted intelligence and security workers collecting their salaries. Suez Canal officials have denied reports that 2 Iranian naval ships have sailed through the waterway. That's despite claims by Iranian state TV that they've already passed through on their way to Syria. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it's an attempt by Iran to broaden its regional influence. Well, early indications from Uganda's presidential poll suggest the incumbent Yoweri Museveni is heading for a big win. Provisional results from nearly all the polling stations show he has 68% of the vote. A victory for Museveni would extend his 25-year rule. Reports in Colombia are casting doubt on the government's claim they rescued former presidential candidate Ingrid Betancourt from armed guerrillas. Colombian radio says it's seen a U.S. diplomatic cable from WikiLeaks. It apparently says a leader of the FARC armed group discussed releasing Betancourt. Mexico's President Felipe Calderón says he's sending more troops to fight drug cartels in the north. 4 new battalions will go to the border region. More than 34,000 people have died in drug-related violence since 2006.
We know the difficult circumstances facing the people of the northeast border and this entire region devastated by criminals without remorse. And due to the irresponsible actions of criminals from several groups, I announced that I have ordered 4 additional army battalions to this region with the aim of backing up the work of the armed forces.
We're back at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
More protesters are killed in Yemen as popular pressure against President Ali Abdullah Saleh mounts. So, can he survive the unrest this time around? And what are the risks of a political void in Yemen? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Divya Gopalan. On Saturday, Yemeni riot police shot dead a protester and injured at least 5 as thousands gathered in the capital Sana'a for a 9th day of protests. Demonstrations followed Yemen's so-called Day of Rage on Friday, in which at least 6 people were killed in clashes between riot police and protesters. Hashem Al-Habara has more.
The sounds of clashes between government loyalists and pro-reform activists again echoed through the Yemeni capital. The fighting in Sana'a erupted soon after Friday prayers. Government loyalists armed with knives and batons embedded with nails attacked protesters demanding the ousting of the government.
When I saw the protesters demanding change, I joined President Saleh's supporters. I am for change, but it has to be peaceful change that protects the country and guarantees progress.
Despite the threats and intimidation, the atmosphere is festive with the protesters dancing and chanting slogans for the president to go.
We want peaceful dialogue, a peaceful power handover. We condemn violence and the presence of thugs.
In the city of Aden, one was killed and many injured in similar clashes. Aden is home to a secessionist movement demanding the South, rich in mineral resources, to break away from the North. The disenchantment in Yemen is also spurred by poverty and high unemployment amongst the young. It's a situation closely monitored by the US, which has recently ramped up its financial and military aid to Yemen to stem the rise of Al-Qaeda. But the Americans are very concerned about the rise in attacks against the protesters. In its first reaction to the ongoing events here, the US Embassy has urged the Yemeni government to ensure the safety of the pro-democracy protesters and their rights to speech and rally. Hashim Ahbara, AlJazeera, Sana'a.
We're joined by our guests from the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, Sheikh Mohammed Abu Lahom. He's a senior member of the ruling party in Yemen. From London, Zaki Shahab, the editor-in-chief of Arabs Today. It's an online news website. And from Sheffield, a Yemeni-born political and human rights activist, Abdul Razak Saleh. I'd like to put my first question to Sheikh Mohammed Abu Lahom. I want to ask you how you see the protests going from here on. There has been violence. It hasn't dampened the protesters' resolve. How far do you think this can go? Will it only stop at complete regime change?
Well, as far as the protests are going, I think it is very alarming, and the intense of the demonstration is increasing, and it is quite worrying. And I hope that serious and very fast reforms are to be taken. And again, a serious and a very fast dialogue has to be taken with the demonstrators. And I don't think that it is in the interest of the opposition nor the ruling party to see these demonstrations and the casualties and the loss of life. I think it is a big loss to all of us.
Abdul Razak Saleh, are reforms enough to stop the protests?
First of all, thank you for having us on this show. I think reforms are not going to work, and I can only see the protesters carrying on until they get rid of this dictatorship. They've had enough for many years. I mean, 33 years in power will not submit to a proper dialogue, and it will not carry out serious reforms that would make the people of the street, the protesters, happy. They have basically lost faith on this regime. The people who are protesting are decent. They are very serious to go forward and oust this regime that has failed in delivering. Plus, the regime has already lost the credibility among those protesters. Otherwise, I mean, he had, or